Well, one of the people who we just had to talk to sooner or later is none other than Peter Benson. So let's just hop right into it. What do you say, Peter?
All right, we've been talking about doing this for a long time, so I'm
Yes.
so excited that we're actually doing it.
This podcast was created by fans for fans and is not affiliated with or sponsored by Hallmark or the Hallmark channel.
It did. And you most recently were just in a couple episodes of Law and Order. So how has that gone for you? Oh, wait. Oh, shit. You're not Peter Hans Benson, are you?
Oh no, but he's
Oh,
good. You should get him on.
this is
You know
embarrassing.
what? There's a lot of Peter Bensons out there. He's out there. Somebody said, "Are you 63?" And I said, "No." They're like,
You're
"If you
pretty
Google
damn good.
yourself, it says you're 63." And I'm like, "So for the record, I'm not on Law and Order or 63. Or there's another one that says I'm 72, and another that says I'm dead. So it's a common name, I guess.
Somewhere in there. But all
Somewhere in
right.
the middle, it's me."
But let's see, get some real talk. So, have you really come up with a backup plan if this acting thing really just doesn't work out for you? I mean, I was looking at your IMDb and you only have 171 acting credits. So, you're
Yeah.
kind of right there on the edge of is it going to work? Is it not?
I'm just chipping away at it. I'm just chipping away, one roll at a time. Uh, you know what's funny is even when you look at that number, it seems like a lot, but um, I don't think as an actor you ever feel like you're totally solid. You're always just trying to get that next gig and trying to, go to the next thing and never looking back. But I've been very, very lucky over the last 20 odd years to get some jobs.
Well, along those lines, so when you first, went to your parents and you're like, "Hey, I think I know what I want to do with my life. I want to be an actor." Like, what was that conversation,
It's
like?
it's not ideal. Like it's like my dad's a lawyer. Everything's very kind of regimented and whatever. And I was also really shy as a kid, not really like a performance based kind of person. So he looks at me like, who is even talking to me right now? But I kind of struck a deal with him because when you talk about backup plans, I had no idea how to get into acting. The industry was sort of just going in Vancouver at that time, but it wasn't like booming. And I didn't know anybody, or I didn't even know about headshots or agents. And so he said, "Look, why don't you get a degree in something? And then if you do well at school and you show you could do that, then I'll support you, as you go off and chase this dream." And so I did go and get a degree. I went and got a degree in film studies, but also in communications, and studied some like broadcasting and advertising and marketing, but all the while also taking acting classes and starting to learn about the business and that kind of thing. And luckily, I did pretty well at university. I'd never done well in school before then, and my dad saw that. And after that, he's like, "All right, if you want, go for it." And but it's been some ups and downs. It wasn't like I wasn't one of those people. I just saw an interview with Tom Hardy, and he was like, "Yeah, I walked out of school and I got my first three jobs, and they're all huge movies." And I was auditioning to be the guy who like pops up in a car in a commercial for like 5 years, and slowly chipping away. And I started doing lots of commercials, and that's where I actually commercials actually pay really well. So if you get a couple a year, you can kind of sneak by. So I kind of lucked out in the first 4 or 5 years of my acting career. It was mainly commercials, but they kept me from having to take other jobs, real jobs, which I have also had along the way. But and then it started growing from there. My thing has always been kind of slow and steady. No like huge stratospheric rise.
Well, we just talked to Leah Thompson recently, and yeah, she started out like her first role was Jaws 3,
Yeah,
then Tom Cruise, then Back to the Future. Like, yeah, it's like, where do you have that little, local car commercial or something
that's
like that?
right.
So,
Well,
yeah.
I mean, that's Back to the Future is one of the movies that like made me want to get into movies. That's pretty cool. You got to chat with her. But yes, no, I did not have that. But in a weird way, it's like I think for me, I can only speak for myself, but it's sort of I never take any of it for granted, and I'm always as soon as the job wraps, I'm working towards writing something or pushing to get the next one, and I try to always stay hungry.
Stay hungry. All right. Well, I'm going to banish you to the world of you can only direct, you can only act, because you've been directing a whole heck of a lot lately. Which of those two would you choose at this point in your life?
Oh my gosh. It literally depends on the second you ask me, I think. Yesterday I would have said directing, and then I got a really fun audition last night that brought out the actor side of me that I love so much. And I mean, honestly, I can't choose. What I can say is that they have very different elements of fulfilling me, and acting is kind of like I've never been a drug guy, but I can imagine the rush of like that high. So when you're acting, it's so in the moment exciting. You're connecting with somebody, maybe improving, you don't know where the scene's going to go, and you're playing some different character, and there's this like weird rush that you get out of it. But for me, often over the years, literally by the time you're driving home, you kind of forget about it, and that's kind of faded. And so what I really like about directing is it's fulfilling in a kind of, for me at least, bigger way. You take the script that's on your computer and you think, how in the world are we going to make this thing? And so you spend weeks and months working with a team of people over every single detail, trying to bring it to life, and then going through editing and post. So when you release it to the world, for me at least, there's been a sense of accomplishment and fulfillment that has been maybe more profound than acting. I feel like I've contributed more when I've been a part of the whole thing. So again, I get the immediate rush from acting, but like a real sense of fulfillment from directing.
You have been in the most mysteries, Hallmark mysteries, outside of Mary Lou Henner and
Mary
Steve
Lou,
Basic.
okay, they snuck
And
ahead of me.
only because of the new Aurora Teagarden,
That's right.
ironically, right?
That's
If it
right.
wasn't for them being in that, you guys were all tied, and then they
And
rebooted
then
that one without you. But
boom.
what is it that you like about? Because you've obviously been in both the rom com and the mystery. But what is it that you like about when you're in the mystery movies?
The mysteries are they're always fun, and I do like I grew up watching mysteries. Like my dad was big into like this Rumpel series from Britain and Agatha Christie and Matlock and those kind of things. So I've always loved a good whodunit with a bunch of suspects. The ones for me that are have been fun to act in have been the ones where you really have some great red herrings and keep the audience guessing, and so for me that's my favorite part, and then acting in them. When you get that script, I'm always trying to guess and see if I can get it, and then will the audience get it. So there's just something really exciting about a good whodunit.
And do you, as I said, you've been in both of them. Do you have a preference if you like the rom com or
Oh, that's a good question. I
the
mean, I
mystery?
think I think my heart of hearts as a performer, I started with comedy, so that's definitely my comfort zone. Directing wise, interestingly, they're both fun, because I do love the challenge of making a cool mystery, and I haven't gotten to do that many. I've only done two as a director, so
Right.
I'm hoping to do more on that front because it's a different thing to really, again, successfully lead the audience down the wrong path in a smart and creative way. So I love doing everything. As soon as you're finished doing a comedy, you want to do a drama or a mystery, or if you're crying one day, you're like, I got to do something silly the next day. I need a mustache and a bit or something like that. So I mean, honestly, I love so many different genres, and I think that it's really cool on Hallmark that they do have both of those, and I hope that they continue with more mysteries. I'd love to be a part of more.
Well, that's what I was going to bring up is that you are pretty much directing every other rom com these days. So we got to get you into that mystery genre more.
I would
So,
love it. I would love it. And then there's things like Cases of Mystery Lane that I got to do a small little cameo in.
right,
But I do think that that's a fun kind of mixture of genres, because it was pretty wacky. I didn't realize how,
right.
Paul they're both hilarious, and so that kind of tone I think would be really fun. And Mike Roll directed, I think, both of those, and he did a great job. But I think I'd love to do something like that too, where we can blend the two.
All right. Well, you just mentioned it. You've been in a lot of the mysteries. You've been Mystery 101, you've been in Cases, Mystery Lanes. We talked about Chronicle. You're in a couple Aurora Teagardens of the
Yeah.
original one of those. So if I forced you to pick, what was your favorite one that you were in?
Ooh,
Which one, and then what was that experience that makes you pick that one?
that's a good question. I mean, obviously the Auroras, because we did it so long, that's there's it's hard to kind of pinpoint one that was uh my favorite. And if I'm being honest, we did that almost for 7 years. Like we did 2 or 3 movies a year, sometimes one, sometimes three. So like any good thing in life, the best part of the experience was the people. You know, myself and Lexa and Miranda. Miranda and I were like old friends doing black box theater many years before that, and we were in acting class together. So the fact that we got to play husband and wife and kind of bickery and all this stuff was really fun for us. Candace Cameron and I became great friends, and she really helped me get my first job directing with Hallmark. And then Niall Mater and I also met at film school 20 something years ago. So the friendships there were amazing. But so it's hard to pinpoint one of those. As for the other ones, I love doing the Chronicle Mysteries. That was just a fun character. I liked again not knowing if he did it or not. I liked kind of being a red herring. And
Right.
Alison Sweeney is great, man. She's so good to act off. So I think in terms of like a pure remembering what the scenes were like, you know, kind of being in the rush in the moment, like looking in her eyes and doing the thing. And of course, Benjamin Ayres, it was like the one of my groomsmen at my wedding. So getting to work with him was fun. We didn't have a lot of scenes together, but we had a bit, and we were on set together a lot. So I really enjoyed that one.
Love it. The correct answer, by the way, was the Mystery Cruise.
Ah, the Mystery Cruise. Yes.
We'll talk about that in a second,
Okay.
but
Okay. Yes.
that is the correct answer.
That was the correct answer. That that was if you want to talk about it later, but they
Yeah.
were I think that was supposed to be a pilot and it never
All right.
really went, which was too bad.
Well, there's no other way to say it, but nobody in the Hallmark world gets dumped like you do. Like you've taken it to a whole other level of
Yes.
just that experience. Now, is there something from your life that you're drawing on that gives us these just memorable experience of being the most amicable dumpy ever known to mankind that you draw from? Because that's what we hear about acting. You're supposed to go, take these personal
Yeah.
experiences.
You have to
Like,
personalize things, right?
yes,
There's kind of two approaches. It's like pulling from something from real life, or if you don't have anything, you can use like a what if. What would it feel like if that girl that I liked broke my heart? Ooh, imagine that for real. But I will say in this world, the breakups are very different, I think, than real life breakups. And
wait,
I
that's not how you
remember,
get dumped. You don't say,
yeah,
"Oh, gee, thanks. Hey, you want to go out and
yeah,
get coffee after this?" And by
honestly,
the way,
man,
good luck with my best friend.
yeah, he's a great guy. And you know what? Just a little inside tip: he loves sushi. But the one I remember, honestly, trying not to laugh was a movie also with Ben Ayres where we had no scenes, but a movie called Falling for Vermont.
Oh
I
yeah,
did, and I played Julie Gonzalo's first boyfriend before handsome Dr. Ben comes in and saves the day.
that's when she has amnesia, right?
Amnesia, right. And I remember the breakup, and I'm spending the whole movie looking for her. And I'm kind of like this guy, I'm her agent. She's like a very successful author. And I'm, worried that she's missing. There's not like I'm pretty full of myself as a lot of those characters are. But there's not a whole bunch saying like I don't like her or anything. Anyways, and we do the breakup, and I remember reading it. It's literally about 4 lines. It's like, well, you know what? I don't know if this is gonna work. And I kind of look at her and go, that's great. That's okay. I wish you nothing but the best. And I remember feeling afterwards, I'm like, I don't remember, because I have been with my wife for 21 years now. So I don't fully remember getting dumped, but I'm like, I don't think it was ever this quick and easy. And in that moment, I was like, should we add more? They're like, nah, it's fine. I was like, okay. But that one did feel quite abrupt and quite pleasant. And like I say, you're there to kind of service the bigger story that she's actually found the right guy. And again, they're usually not trying to paint the other guy as this horrible person, just not the right fit for our hero. But yes, I've been dumped a lot.
Yes, and like I say, You've made it an art. All right. Well, we're going to go back in the time machine for a little bit, all the way back to 2012.
Okay.
Is Bride for Christmas your very first Hallmark?
It is. It is
Okay.
Bride for Christmas.
And you were with a couple people who some people may have heard of, Andrew Walker, Kimberly Sustad as well, who have gone on to be in a Hallmark movie or two themselves.
Have they?
So when you look back 13 years,
Yeah.
like, when you're on that set, do you think did you have any idea that first of all, you'd be going and making, I don't know what, 78 Hallmark movies, and then the two of them would be the three of you guys would just be such big Hallmark, like the Hallmark industry, I guess, would be so big, and you guys would be
Yeah.
such a big part of it.
In all honesty, not at all. Not at all. I will say, I think that was maybe like the third one I'd auditioned for. And, because they'd been starting up in Vancouver. And prior to that, the Vancouver community, especially, was very sci fi based.
Right.
And I never really booked in the sci fi world. I used to think, like, I don't have like a cool enough angled face or something. Like, I'm just not. They don't believe I'm an alien or a soldier fighting aliens or whatever. So all of a sudden, a couple of these like rom coms came up. I'm like, oh, this is way more my world. So when I got that one, I was thinking, wow, this is really cool. It would be great if they made more of these, but I had no idea. I mean, Andrew, I will say, I mean, he doesn't really look like him, but I remember meeting him. I'm like, this guy's like Tom Cruise. He's just like so good looking and so funny and confident and nice. Like he seemed like he could go someplace. Like I was like, this guy's got movie star quality. Kim was amazing, but I think I shouldn't say this, but I don't think she had done that much of anything before that, let alone Hallmark. She had not acted much. So she was like really natural, really good, but I didn't who knew that she was
Right.
gonna blow up and become all this and she's insanely talented in front of and behind the camera. But no, I had no no clue. I was just having fun and hoping we'd get to do maybe one or two more.
Well, now you like it's so well known how much like the Hallmark actors is kind of like an old studio, where
Yeah,
you guys all know each other and have become friends because once again, you've been in probably so many movies together.
yeah.
So you didn't know either of them at all when you first walked on that set, huh?
I did not. I did not. And you know what? I actually haven't worked with Andrew since.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
That's
we
how's
changed.
that even possible?
I don't know. I don't know. Andrew Walker, if you're listening, let's reunite. We've sent some messages back and forth, and I'm always so happy to see him doing so well. Kim and I got to work together a few more times, and we, have hung out as well. She's got kids, we've got kids. Not a lot the last couple of years because luckily we've both been working a lot. But I definitely, she's part of the Vancouver community, so I definitely did see her at events, and we always end up, chit chatting, and of course I love Paul Campbell as well. So they're often seen at the same events and stuff. But I definitely, it's like on my list. I got to get back with Andrew Walker.
We get you in a Curious Cater. We'll keep you in that mystery genre so you can
Done.
catch up to
Exactly.
Steve and
That's
Mary
right.
Lou. You got, you can't let them
I,
pass you
I
too
can't let
much.
them pass me too far. I know. I know.
All right. Well, we are talking about, going way back in time. But so when you were in that mystery cruise,
Yeah.
like you were saying, that was supposed to be a series, from my understanding, and it just didn't pan out. Like you had such a good cast. Michelle Harrison, by the way, I have no idea how she is not the queen of Hallmark. She was so good.
Well,
Whatever, that's a whole nother story.
but it's true. She's fantastic. She's about the nicest person ever. Musical, talented, beautiful, kind, great to work with.
Bill
And
Grady, Larry Miller,
That's
like you had
right.
such a
Yeah.
good cast, and it just didn't. And
It didn't go. It was that one, and then there was Signed, Seal, Delivered, that one, and then there was a third one that all went that year. That other one that didn't get picked up either.
was that the Signed, Seal, Delivered you were in by chance?
No, it
Or
wasn't.
you were
So
in one
I,
later?
but I remember, I auditioned a few times. I got fairly close, but it was clearly meant to be his to the Norman role that Jeff Gustafson got, and I
Oh,
think
life would have been different.
life would have been different. And I think he got that. And then about a month or so later, I got the mystery cruise. And yeah, it just didn't, I don't know. I haven't seen it in so long. It felt like it was all the recipe for it to go, and Gail was great, Michelle great, really fun. It was a great premise, well directed. Doug Barr was the director of that one, who's an old Hollywood guy, nicest guy ever, and yeah, it would have been amazing. But here we are.
Well, looking at Mr. Cruise, which I think was like 213, and then the what we just talked about, the Bride for Christmas. So your most recent one, I'm going to say you're in, was Cases of Mystery Lane. I'm not going to give you credit for your Mrs. Miracle because you were in that, so you got to control too much there.
There,
But
that's right.
let's. How different was those first couple hallmarks to what your last Hallmark movie was like, just as far as being an actor and what the sets are like, what the whole just vibe of Hallmark movies from then to now is?
You know
Because
what? It's
you've done the span, right?
Yeah, it's a really good question actually, and I think to be honest with you, probably for the first 2 or 3 years, I didn't even really think of them as a Hallmark movie. It was just a movie of the week that happened to be on Hallmark. Because again, they, at least to my knowledge, they hadn't quite exploded to the level they have now. So it was just like, who's this one for? Oh, it's that Hallmark channel again. And then that slowly over the years started becoming its own thing. So yeah, I mean, now those first ones, you're always just trying not to get fired. You're just trying to you're hoping the director's liking what you're doing. You maybe throw out an improv here and there, and if they smile and laugh, you keep doing it, and if they don't, you stop doing it. And but I'm much more comfortable now. I feel like I know the sandbox that we're playing in, and you generally know all the crews and most of the other supporting cast. And like you say, it has had an element of that studio system. So even if somehow you haven't crossed paths, you know of each other. So, I mean, to be honest, when I did Case of Mystery Lane, Paul and I literally, none of it you can even see on screen, but the outtakes of that were like we couldn't even look at each other without laughing. And we improv all kinds of stuff that never made it in, but it was so much fun. To the point that he would literally be like, "Put your head down, do not make eye contact," and then he'd say his lines, and then we'd go. And Matt Hamilton also was laughing off camera. And again, in the beginning, on the first couple of movies, it wasn't that vibe for sure.
Yeah, like I say, you're trying just not to get fired, and
Yeah,
instead of
head down,
completely
just
trying
try
to
to.
break your co-stars there.
That's right.
So we've been asking lately this question of actors, but you obviously audition a little bit, and
Yeah,
auditioning has changed over the years. You're not coming up in person anymore. You're doing most of them from Zoom, from what I understand. But you've got to, in this career of yours with 171 movies that you've landed, and I'm sure there's one or two that you maybe didn't get.
yeah.
So, do you have any like really good audition story that maybe something that's went completely awry, or one that you just nailed and had everyone crying and like, oh my gosh, that you are it, or anything? What do you
Well,
got?
I mean, auditioning is like a whole different world, and yeah, doing it at home is. This is my little audition wall, this blue wall back here, and there's pros and cons to it. The pros are that we have kids, so if like you have an audition that's across town and you got to get babysitters and stuff, and then you're never even going to get the part, it can become quite a chore to do that. Whereas if you can just do it at home on your own time, it's much better. But there was something about the kind of room and the feel of the room, and I remember uh, I had this one. I was actually down in LA for pilot season, and I'd gone down. Um, I hadn't really done that much, but Miranda from Aurora Teagarden had. This is way before Aurora. She and I had done some short film, and she was down there, and her agent saw it and was like, "Who's that guy? You should come down and do this thing." And so all of a sudden, I'm living in LA for a few months, going on these pilot auditions, which were way more intense than auditions in Vancouver. There's like 8 people there. Down there was like hundreds, and I'm like the only guy I don't recognize. Like everyone's from a TV show, and I'm like, oh my god, what am I doing here? And I didn't have any hits on them, and then I remember kind of having this moment with myself, this kind of, what am I doing wrong? And I'm like, I'm going in too Canadian, too humble, too quiet. I was like, I got to go in with confidence and show them that I'm the guy to like take this role on. So I go in and I meet the woman, And I basically almost start talking like, so when we shoot this thing, here's what I'm thinking, da da da. And she's right in with me, and we're doing this, and I kind of get her laughing or whatever. Literally, I go to the car, and my agent's calling me in the parking lot. Oh my God, they love you. Da 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 da. So you got to go back to test for everybody. So the next day I go in, and it's like DreamWorks, and it's like Ron Howard's things there, and I'm like, this is it, man. It's all gonna happen. So I walk in, and there's like 30 people in the room, which we never, you film and TV, there's usually one person, a camera person and the casting person, maybe one producer or something. And it's for the lead in this sitcom about like a 20-year-old who ends up like living in an old folks home with his grandpa, like kind of, and becomes like this wheeler dealer in the place kind of thing. And I'm just cooking. Like it is just like I've never, like they're holding for laughs. I've never had a room like that, and I'm like floating. I'm improvising, da da da, and I walk out, and the casting director goes, "I guess we'll be seeing you real soon," and kind of winks. And then I pass a couple of guys that I know, and they're like, "Thanks a lot, man." And I'm like, "Done." And I'm walking in my car, going, "My life just changed." I called my agent, and we never heard a word. And I'm like, and I never got another audition that pilot season. So then I just drove back home to Vancouver thinking, what happened there? So honestly, you just like never know, it's they like you could have walked out and somebody said he's a little too tall. Anyway, on to the next person. It can somehow be that whatever, but I remember just thinking there's no way I didn't get this. And I didn't even not only didn't get it, like I didn't even get they didn't call and ask questions or see. No, it's just radio silence.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Are you a guy who like you're directing and acting, so you're putting yourself out there quite a bit? Are you a guy who's on Twitter or whatever, looking at reviews and comments and things like that, or do you pretty much don't want to know what's going on?
I mean, a little bit. I'm learning more and more that you're basically seeking out something bad if you get on there, right? Because if you see a couple nice things and then you see one bad thing, you forget all about the nice things and you only focus on the bad one. So I try not to get on there too much, but I do keep a pulse just to see if in general people are kind of liking it or whatever. But I try not to go down the rabbit hole too hard.
So have you had a movie that you just loved that maybe you saw people didn't get quite the reception you expected?
Ooh. That's a good question. There's nothing that I can think off the top of my
Look
head
at
that
you,
like,
just hit after hit then.
no, I think like I say, I just kind of avoid it. I think I did a movie called When I Think of Christmas that didn't do quite as well. I think with the audience as I hoped, and I was actually thought it was pretty strong, and we had some great moments, and Niall Mater and Sinead Grimes were great in it. And even this last year, I did one called the 5 Year Christmas Party, which was really interesting because I got more positive feedback about that film from a lot of people, but then some people didn't seem to like it, which is kind of a weird one. It doesn't just sit in the middle. It was like that's the best movie I've ever seen on Hallmark, and that one's I turned it off after 5 minutes or whatever. And so again, you just never really know what's going to hit and what's not. But like I say, I think I literally heard one or two comments like that, and you might get 100. I liked it, but you remember those.
Those
I
two.
didn't like it. So even if I see something saying like the 10 worst movies of the year, I'm like, I'm not going to read this article. I don't want to know if I'm in this thing or not.
I liked the 5 Year Christmas Party. They had some good the I don't know if it's you know their director terms,
Yes,
but when you're
yeah.
doing your time and sort of walking through it and you
That's
can
my
see the
that's my favorite part
season
of it.
or
That's
whatever,
my
right?
favorite
Yeah,
part.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's good stuff.
They gave those were in the writing, and then we got to really think about how do we make this cool kind of transition. And we had to do it 5 times. So I really enjoyed that. And my director of photography, Jesse Young, was great, and the whole wardrobe and production team was great. And also they're both unbelievably good performers. Jordan Fisher and Katie Finley, they were both phenomenal.
Love Katie Finley. Well, you are, as we're just, we're talking a little bit about it, but you're getting much more into directing.
Mhm.
Like I say, it seems like you're maybe directing more than actually in movies these days. But is there, as you're looking at that, like this one iconic act or director, one of the greats that you kind of look at and say, oh, that's, I'm pulling from there for my influence and what they did. I love how they direct, and I want to bring that to my work.
Oh, I mean, I have so many that I love. I mean, again, some of my stuff is really defined from childhood of whether it was John Hughes or Zemeckis or, I mean, Steven Spielberg, obviously the biggest director in the world, but like, I loved, I think commercial films often get like sort of like poo-pooed or whatever, but the reality is if you make something that connects with a large audience, you're probably doing something right. You're telling a really human story in an exciting way. So I've really gone back and studied their films and tried to watch, even how they edit or when they go from a wide to a close up, the kind of musicality of that, the cutting, their framing and storytelling. So I mean, Spielberg's obviously the one. I also love guys like somebody like Ben Affleck, who is an actor director. Whether you are into his personal life or not, I don't really know anything about that. But the guy can direct movies. He directs some really, really thoughtful, intelligent, cool movies. So, and I like people, John Krasinski, Jason Bateman, anyone who, because often people want to put you in that box. Are you this or are you that? But I think any actor, director loves the whole thing. That's the like you went from acting to directing because you want to be more a part of it, but also not to say I don't want to act. You just want to be more a part of the movie making. So those are people that I look up to.
Okay, well, then we'll go into your acting. If they were to recast some, big mega role from, the classics, is there one that you like, oh, I would love to be in a remake of whatever?
Oh man, so many, so many. Again, and I wouldn't say I could ever match them, but everything Michael J. Fox did when he was young, all those Back to the Futures, Secret of My Success, his kind of like relatable comedy, everyman stuff, I really loved. I think there's like I was a huge Office fan. Still am a huge Office fan. So like Jim from The Office is a role that I think I would. I'm always playing this sort of jerk boyfriend, but in real life, I think I'm much more of like a nice guy who's wisecracky like Jim.
I
So
would hope you'd think that of yourself.
yeah, I hope so. Like I say, I think that's why I have so much fun playing jerk boyfriends because it's so different. I'm much more like everyone to get along. Don't want to stir the pot in real life. Uh, the funny thing about The Office is there's two roles on it that I would have loved especially as I get older. I could see myself trying to play Michael Scott, and then also, but Jim coming up, I was like, ooh, that's something that I would have loved to be a part of because I thought it was comedic, but I also love the beautiful connection between him and the Pam character.
I thought you were going to say Creed.
Well, I'm heading towards Creed. One day we all end up as Creed. He got so weird as the seasons went on, and I loved it. Just weird cutaways that they never explained.
Well, you have directed 6 movies since 2024, 5 of them 2024, and then Return to the Office. So from Blind Date, Book Club, all the way through Return to the Office. Which of those was your favorite that you directed, and what was? I know they're all great, by the way. I think you're definitely hitting home run after home run. But
Oh
like,
man.
what one did you like really say? This one just there's a little something about it that I just really liked.
Oh man, that's a tough question. That is a tough
I know it's
question.
your favorite kid, right?
Favorite kid? Yeah, exactly. This is the Sophie's Choice part of the interview. Um, it's funny because so many of them were great. I actually had a really good time on Leah's Perfect Gift. We added so many beats to that one that weren't necessarily planned in advance, like the little things with her, like doing the blowtorch on the gingerbread house, and a lot of the comedic beats we sort of came up with on the day, which is one of my favorite things. Maybe not on the day, but in a couple days in advance, and sometimes you spend a movie coming up with stuff like that, and then it doesn't end up surviving. But a lot of that stuff made it into the cut, and the cast was really fun to work with. I mean, again, it's so hard to say they were all fun. I loved working with Robert Buckley and Aaron on Blind Date Book Club. They were both, phenomenal. Janelle Parrish, phenomenal. It's really hard to pick.
Well, like I said, you couldn't really, like I said, your home run after home run.
I
Leah's
think.
Perfect Gift was actually interesting because it was being Jewish. It was a movie that just really Hallmark is horrible, by the way, at doing their descriptions of the countdown to Christmas. You have no
Right.
real idea what they're about, right? So my fear was it was going to be a movie that sort of was the Jewish girl who was like bummed out that she was Jewish and wish she was doing Christmas instead. But instead, I loved the way that movie came and turned out to be one of my top movies of the entire year. It was so well done.
Oh,
Um,
amazing.
it's Emily Arlook, right? Is
Yeah. Yes. And
she? I don't know what. By the way, if you're in a quasi Hanukkah movie, Hallmark just never calls you again after that one. I hope they get her again. She was magnificent. It
couldn't
was
agree more. I hope we see way more of her. She was so. I told her even because it was one of those ones that I had to have a call with her. We wanted her, but we didn't know she hadn't done one before, and so we had a call before. And I sort of studied some of her work, and I just said, "Look, your comedic cadence is so unique and so fun and so watchable that like I can't see anyone else in this movie." And luckily, she said yes, and then totally delivered. She was so I don't know. It's funny when you get somebody who's just different. There's just I can't really put it into words, but like I just found her so incredibly watchable, and she would make such fun choices, so much going on behind the eyes, but also like great comedic timing, kind of throwaway, kind of whatever, but really funny. And yeah, she was. I hope she's doing way more because she's awesome.
And then for me, you created a double whammy. You had Evan Roderick, who was just riding a thing, and I think after there, I put him now into like just the top Hallmark talent. And then Janelle Parrish, who same thing with the Return to Work. She's been getting better role, better role, better role, and then
Yeah,
Return to Work. This is like boom. She is now on that one level. So both of those two, and I think as a result of like I can't say breakout because they were in good things leading to it, but it was
sure.
just that like apex of like I am here now. I am established, and double Arthur too. By the way, for Leah's.
Double Arthur, which was really cool to work with him, and I couldn't agree more. Specifically, like Evan, like it's people don't realize how hard it is to just sit staring at the girl and just sit confidently and not do too much, but just own it and do it with your eyes and stuff like that. And I felt like he really has settled into just being such a confident, charming performer. And I agree. I think he's just going to start rocking it. And he was so good in that. Janelle, I mean, she was great in Sugar Plum too. I thought that one was really
Right.
good this year. And, but like, she is, again, so fun, so just like Emily, unique and watchable, and also about the easiest person to ever work with. Like she, because those are other things that behind the scenes you kind of know who's easier to work with than whatever, and she's at the top of the list of like 100%. You want to work with Janelle, and just a lovely person, ready to rock. Because they got to get there at like 5 in the morning. The days are long for those stars, so if someone's in a grumpy mood or something, like it's understandable because they're tired and exhausted having to memorize all this lines. But I would say like almost nobody is ever in a bad mood on the Hallmark set, but Janelle just has that little magical sparkle, and I think she's about to take off, like you say, take off, even though she's already been doing really
You're right.
well. Uh,
Like I say,
yeah.
like you said, Sugar Plum, once again, one of the best movies of the
Yeah,
season
really
there
good,
as well.
wasn't it?
And that was literally her. So, uh,
Yeah, so good.
well, I recently did a post on Instagram where I asked which Hallmark detective would have caught Dexter. I haven't
Ah,
done the OG Arthur yet. I did do Evans, and I said he's too busy googly eyeing at Aurora that he
yeah,
wouldn't he wouldn't even realize that there's a murder going on. But
sure.
how do you think that your Arthur would have done catching Dexter?
I think my Arthur would have gotten killed by Dexter. I mean, he was
I think I have to borrow that.
Arthur. Arthur was the nicest guy. I don't know if he was the best detective. He was always a few beats late, to the party. But that was actually one of the funny things that Miranda and I used to always kind of we'd be like, why are we always late? Because it would always be Aurora, and then 2 seconds later we figured it out. But I said, well, if we figure it out before her, then we don't really have a show. So we should let her. we got to let Aurora solve these crimes. So I don't. I think Dexter was pretty smart. He would have gotten the best of old Arthur.
I love it. I love it. So
Lynn might have caught him.
we're talking about, you being the original Arthur, and then we have Evan now. How much would you love to somehow figure a way to weasel yourself into the new Aurora, maybe coming back as his uncle or something like that in a different role?
You know what's funny that you said that, Eric? I've got two pitches that I want to send to Joel Rice, one of the producers of that show,
Right.
about potentially getting. I've got two ideas about because it would be so fun. I mean, Mary Lou is also one of my become one of my really good friends, and uh, that
I
that
don't know if she
show.
remembers you.
Yeah, probably not. She doesn't remember much.
Yeah.
She is amazing. That's like the best party trick ever. She'll be like, what's your birthday? What year? Saturday." And now you
Right.
can Google it to see if she's right. But and also, I mean, in addition to just loving the Aurora franchise, and I have so many good memories from it. But now it shoots in Victoria, and I've had the pleasure of directing about 5 movies over there in the last few years. So the crew has kind of become like a second family. So it'd be great to go back, and the DP of those movies, Will, has was the director of photography for all the movies I shot over there, and he's a really talented, cool guy. I just love to do it. So I'll have to send Joel those pitches.
Have you ever worked with Jessica Harmon?
Yes, I have. Not as either of us directing. We played husband and wife
No way.
in. See, this is what's bad is I'm getting old. I can't even remember the name of the show. A Canadian show. We were kind of fighting. It was really well shot. We were in something, and it was some who done it. I think she got killed, and then I was a suspect. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. But I mean, Jess is like Vancouver royalty. She's been around a long time, and her family's really entrenched in
Right.
the business. Her brother's a great actor, and she's just like hilarious and charming and talented and all the things.
Yeah, I love what she's doing with the new Aurora there. So,
Yeah, they're very cool,
but
very stylistic, and yeah.
I'll say Joel's. He made the mistake of texting me once, so I
Oh,
actually have his number in my phone. I will text him right now and
tell
say,
him I've got some Arthur
yeah,
pitches coming his way,
and I'll see
and
how
also
quickly it takes him to be, first of all, who dis, and then
yeah.
secondly, block.
Nudist block. Yeah, no, Joel's great, but I'll have to send him something. I don't know if they're making more or not, but I hope so.
They
And
have to. It was so
yeah,
good.
yeah.
Well, you mentioned this a little earlier, and we had Paul Campbell on, and he said he has never laughed like he did when
Oh,
he was
really?
doing the cases, and you were just sitting across from him, just making him break left and right. So you gotta remember a little bit of what you were like. He wouldn't fess up to what it was. You gotta
It
remember a little
was.
bit of what you were
You know what?
saying
I
there.
honestly don't overly remember. I was just being sort of ridiculous. My character was like I would sort of talk in a DJ voice, so I would go from being like scared to like then also trying to talk like this, and but he'd be like, "Who did it?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I don't know." That kind of thing. And then I think there was something. I think my character's name was Pat, and he's like, and at the end of the scenes, he's like, "Is it Pat or Patrick?" And I was like, "It's Patrice," or stuff like that. Just every line we were both being idiots. But I think it was the radio voice that got him. But then going back to being scared or whatever. And the weird thing about that is, I think I used to always fancy myself somebody who doesn't break on set. I think I've only done it like 2 or 3 other times, and uh, and it's usually something weird like that. Like one of the best ones I ever saw was I think on the third Aurora Teagarden that we did, and Candace and I were now just becoming friends. So you have sort of inside jokes, and maybe it was later because Yannick was in the scene. Yannick Besson, who was on for a while as Martin, and I show up at their door like all worried about her or something, and they open the door and I go, and there's something about my face. Candace couldn't handle it, so she was dying with laughter. Literally pouring rain outside. The director is like so upset. And we did like 30 takes, and I'm not even doing anything. I'm just standing there, but now she's just dying with laughter. So it's often not even some super witty moment or anything like that. It's just once you lose it, you can't get it back.
Okay. Well, we talked a little bit before, and you said well, it'll have already started by the time this airs, but you're getting ready to start a project and you can't tell us about it.
No,
So, what can you tell us without telling us anything?
you're really gonna like it. No, it's here's the only thing, and I don't even know, but it is a Christmas film. It is a Christmas movie.
Is it directing or is it acting?
Directing.
Okay.
Yeah. So, to be honest, I don't even know if we have anyone except our number one, who I still think I'm not allowed to say. I've never worked with her before. Seems great. She's also producing. And I've seen her in films, and she seems lovely, and I'm excited to work with her. And we start prepping on Monday.
So, just quickly, how does the process go for
Mhm.
picking, like, because you direct about three a year at Christmas,
Yeah.
the Christmas movies. So I guess it's like, should we get Peter, Lucy Guest, or somebody, whatever, a rando? So, but I guess, do you sort of say, oh, I like this one, or is it literally they just come to you and say, hey,
No.
we want you?
Yeah, it's more that, and they
You got to
approach
get
you.
some more juice then,
Got to get some more juice. Honestly, so it's been a bit, the whole industry's been a bit slow the last couple of months. So my
right?
wife and I, the way I got into directing was we years ago started writing, producing, and directing like indies and shorts, and we did a pilot with a Canadian network and a couple different things. And but then we had kids, and that slows down. You're not at home just like jamming out ideas all night. But the kids are now getting older, so yeah, the last couple months we've got some really cool scripts coming along that we're hoping to pitch probably as soon as I'm done this movie. One with the hope that we could act in it together, which would be great, and then a couple others that I would hope to direct, and some Christmas, some not Christmas, but I love that stuff too. I mean, creating shows and coming up with characters and stuff is one of my favorite things, and um, so yeah. But as of now, usually it's just getting a call saying they asked about you for this one, or the only other thing is sometimes you do create relationships with the producers, and so if you're working on one, they might go, "Hey, I've got this one about blah 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 coming up. Would you be into it?" And you kind of chit chat about it, and then maybe you kind of know that that's in the pipeline, and so it's a lot of those relationships and those kind of things. People like working with people that they gel with, right? It's such a fast, crazy thing. Like I say, you get it in a series, you're working together for 10 months, you have recurring sets, you start getting a system in place. Every single Hallmark project, even if you're doing a few a year, day one of prep, you're starting with no location, no supporting cast, no clue what you're going to do, and you have 3 weeks to start filming. So they're all kind of like their own puzzle piece to put together. So having a team in place that you know and trust and can work with, like I say, that team in Victoria, those people all work together all the time. That crew there, and so when you roll in, they have a shorthand together. And it took me a few films, but I feel like I've got that shorthand with them now. And truly in Vancouver too, a lot of the crew people. Again, I don't even know if they're locked down yet, but the director of photography on this one, I've done some stuff with before. And a couple of the other key people, our first assistant director, did the Aurora Teagardens with me, and I've known him for years. So those kind of things, so that you can come in without having to try to get to know each other for 5 days, because you don't really have that time. You gotta jump in and start sprinting.
All right. Well, love
Yeah.
it. Well, good luck. I hope
Thank
it
you.
goes well. Wait, you said so Monday you're not actually getting on set.
No, no. So Monday
Okay,
is
because I'm about to
yeah.
say you did wait, if you just have just your number one,
Now that would be
that's gonna
hard.
be a
Yeah.
busy last couple of
We
days.
just get the cameras, and whoever shows up is the lead, and we just go. Yeah. No,
So
we
we have heard for some of the twos and further down that or I don't know what you call them, but not the leads, that they do get the call literally a day or two
a hundred
beforehand and
percent.
say, hey, let's roll.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. It's funny. You mentioned Michelle Harrison earlier, and back a couple years ago, uh, there was a Lifetime movie that I got cast in, and they ended up changing the title. I can't even remember what the title was. I can email it to you later. But and so Michelle got cast as my wife, and it's the two of us, and then my friend's daughter like moves in the house, and she basically starts tormenting us because I had caused her father to go to jail back in the day based on The Secret. It's very Lifetime kind of setup. Anyways, and so Michelle and I were talking, and it was right when, right at the height of COVID, and the Omicron variant or whatever, everyone was getting COVID, and so Michelle and I were calling each other every day up until Friday night. We started shooting on Monday morning, and Friday at like 11, she called and said she was out because she was sick. So literally Saturday morning, and she's the number one in the movie. She was out, and on Monday I showed up, and Zibby Allen, who's on Virgin River, was like, "Hi, I'm Zibby. I got this about 4 o'clock last night." So literally, she hadn't had the script, she hadn't had anything, and we started shooting at 6 o'clock on Monday morning.
What a great story to end on.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. Sorry about the confusion at the beginning. Like I said, I turned out well though.
Turned
So
out well.
yes,
Technology was not our friend today. It's actually,
yes.
I've been battling it. I had 2 printers that won't work. The Wi-Fi's down. But you know what? I got to tell you too. I always love listening to your take on things, and you've got a great ability to be supportive of these films, even if it wasn't your favorite. You can find something good or an honest critique. But in general, it's always like such an interesting take on things, and seeing your guys' support of the films is awesome.
I appreciate it. And if you just keep making good ones, you don't have to worry about any, interesting takes to try to be positive. Just keep making these great movies.
We'll try. We'll try. Like I say, I try to, every time it's like a new time to go out and try your best, right?
Thank you very much, Peter.
Okay, thank you. Bye.